Hey there, it's Joseph from Roboflow. Today I'm going to show you what Roboflow is and how to get the most out of Roboflow for building your computer vision models. Roboflow enables any engineer to have the capabilities of a computer vision engineer and allows computer vision engineers to build the best models possible by improving the quality of their training data and allowing them to take advantage of state-of-the-art modeling techniques. Now, let me dive into a little bit about what Roboflow is, okay? So I told you at a high level, but what's Roboflow being used for? We've seen Roboflow used in a wide array of industries. People doing things like measuring fish, finding gas leak detections, monitoring oil pipelines from aerial imagery, identifying weeds versus crops in agriculture, building sushi detectors. Really, if there's any task where you want to find information from videos or images, Roboflow can probably help you. In fact, it's used by companies across the Fortune 500, individual developers, and startups alike. There's thousands that use Roboflow to improve their processes with computer vision. You're in great hands. Now, where exactly do we fit into the model development process? I mean, there's a lot of information here, so let me kind of break this down. Roboflow is what you use for your source of record for your training data. After you've collected your data, but before you're going to go about modeling it, there's a series of steps you need to take, like labeling and integrating with labeling partners, organizing your data with your team members, pre-processing it, like resizing it or removing EXIF data, or perhaps increasing contrast, augmenting your data to increase the size of your training set to improve your modeling results, checking the health of your data, like dataset annotations, making sure your classes are balanced, understanding where your annotations are across your images, versioning datasets, sharing them across team members. All of these are parts of your workflow that you need to have managed. And then lastly, you export your data from Roboflow into any format you need. One of the most common use cases we see is importing data into Roboflow from, say, VOC XML and exporting to YOLO or CocoJSON to work with the PyTorch framework, or even generating TF record files. Roboflow supports over 30 import formats and a dozen export formats. It's the source of record for your training data and removes silent errors that decrease model performance. Once you have your data, you then go about your way and you train. We help you there too. We have a model library I'll show you a bit more about here in a second. You then deploy your model and you display the results based on the context of your problem. Now, that sounds good and all in practice, or in theory. So let's actually see what this looks like in practice. How do we upload, collaborate, improve, and export our given data set? Well, to show you, I'm going to dive right in here to a live example. The first thing that I need to do here is get my data into Roboflow. So you'll notice here that I have this blank account state. And in my blank account, I have my resources over here. I have my account settings over here. I have my documentation linked right here. It's all there for you. I can monitor my usage, upgrade my plan to get better features, look at my third-party keys, contact support. It's all here in one spot. Now, okay, the first thing that I need is data, of course. Now, in my example, I already have a data set here of chessboards, and I have chess pieces across these chessboards. And so, I have these chess pieces in various states. I'm going to be using a data set to train a model to identify given chess pieces and do object detection and learn the bounding boxes for where those chess pieces are across my board. So I already have labeled images in VOC XML, but if these were labeled in CocoJSON or YOLO text files or you name it, they'd be ready to go in Roboflow. So I have my data ready. Now I need to get my data into Roboflow first by creating a data set. Here I'm going to say that I have my own data, and in this case I'm going to name it chess example getting started. It is an object detection data set, not a classification data set, though we support these other formats, or you can request for us to support new formats. The annotation group refers to what have you labeled in your data set. In my data set, I've labeled all of the blank. In my chess example, I've labeled all of the pieces. So I'll call this pieces. Okay, I'll go ahead and create this data set. Now I need to drop my data and have Roboflow process it for me. So here at this step, I dropped in all my images, I dropped in all my annotations, and Roboflow processed it and looks for errors. And it found a few on my data set. We look for errors like annotations that extend outside of the frame of the image, or 0-pixel annotations, things that silently decrease the performance of your model or lead to loud errors later on in your modeling flow. In this case, there were a couple of annotations that extended outside of frame. If you have a little look here at me, it was slightly outside of frame, but we corrected them and improved them. Okay, so I see here that everything looks generally good. Everything actually matched and was annotated. If your data was not recognized, you could always drop in here and write us a little chat, and we're happy to help out. Now, the other things that I have is all my images, my annotations, and it shows me if things aren't annotated. I'll want to start my upload, but before that, I can set my train, valid, test, split. I can set these to whatever percents make the most sense. Usually the defaults are pretty good. 70% in my training set, 20% to validate that training, and 10% in a holdout set to ultimately test the performance of the model that I'm training. So I'm going to go ahead and start my upload here with 70-20-10, and this data goes right on into Roboflow. So here's my data. Data set, command, control, center. Okay, so here I have all of the key settings that I need to manage and understand my data set. I can do a data set health check and understand and learn more about what's in my given data set. I can also understand the high-level statistics of when my data set was last modified and what's going on. This is where I will also do things like pre-process and augment my data here in a moment. Okay, so here I see I have my 20 images, 267 annotations, my class balances, and upgrade to see things like dimension insights or annotation heat maps. Okay, so now the first things that I have are some of my pre-processing steps. These are things like resizing my images or doing different grayscale or contrast. I'm gonna just do a quick rescale to 416 by 416. You'll note that Roboflow actually do things like allow me to preview the types of changes that I might want to do on my data set. So for example, if I want to fit with black edges in, or if I want to do white edges in, or if I want to fit within, or stretch to, all of those things are automatically updated. So here, if I stretch to, everything will be stretched to be the correct same stretched aspect ratio. Now I can also add some augmentation steps to increase the size and variation in my data. So here I'm going to do some random flips, and I'm going to do some vertical and horizontal flips. Oh, sorry, let me just redo my resize here. Stretch to, yeah, that looks good. No, fit, yeah, stretch. Cool. So now I can also do like rotations if I want to randomly rotate my degree 90 degrees or clockwise or counterclockwise or things like that. I can also add rotation, brightness things. I have bounding box level augmentations that allows me to augment my data only inside the bounding boxes, which improves my model performance in ways that is far better. Here, in this case, I'm going to do brightness changes up to 20%. And I'm going to create 3 versions of my images, which is going to take my data set of 20 and create approximately 60 images after augmentation. So I'm going to go up here and click Generate, and I'm going to give this a name. I'm just going to call it V1 because that seems like a good name for this data set. So here, all of my data gets applied with all the pre-processing and augmentations that I wanted. I'll be able to download and export it in any format, but before that, let's just have a look at the data as I created it. So this created about 48 images here of all these different variations, and you can tell that they're randomly brighter, some of them are flipped, they're all scaled to be 416 by 416, we can see that here, and these settings are saved for me. All of my bounding boxes are updated correctly as well. Roboflow handles all of that in the background, so the only thing I have to worry about is which model might be the best for my given data set. Okay, so with my data all correctly processed and everything labeled correctly, I can go ahead and export it to whatever format I need. Now, you'll notice that we support many formats based on the models that I'm going to do. Notably, this is where I want to go to models.roboflow.ai and have the ability to choose one of these models that I might want to work on. So if I want to use, for example, YOLO v5, I would pull up this Colab notebook here, File, save a copy to Drive, and here with my copy of my given model here, I have the ability to drop in my data from Roboflow to train a YOLO v5 model. The only place I need to change it is right here. So if I go back to my export format and I say YOLO v5 PyTorch and click continue, it zips up all those files for me in the specific version that I need, and I have the ability to drop that key directly into my given model that I'm working on. So I would just replace this link with my new link, and I'd be able to run about and go and start training. Okay, so I mean, that's kind of it. From here, I can also go in here and I can add things like I can share this data set with my team. I can share it publicly if I'm on a paid tier and I want to make the data available. I can continue to make more versions and improve my data set. I can try a bunch of different models and things. One last thing to show you is that if you don't have data to get started, you can go to public.roboflow.ai and use one of our publicly available data sets. Like maybe I want to do vehicle detection and have a look at identifying all the vehicles or things like this in a given data set. So everything's there that you need to get started. You have your images, you have your Roboflow your data that you can get into Roboflow, and then you have models to go about your way and train and have everything formatted, pre-processed, augmented, versioned correctly. We cannot wait to see what you build with Roboflow. Be sure to like and subscribe and drop in the comments things that you may want us to add to the Roboflow platform so that we can build more for your specific use cases. Can't wait to see what you build.